The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest stories in the NBA. You are Locked On Wolves Postcast, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network.
I don't even want to tee you up, man. I just want to jump right into it. 19-point comeback, down 17 in the fourth. Everybody made plays down the stretch, it felt like. No Finch either, by the way. And we just watched the game of the year thus far. You witnessed it live. You're at the Target Center. Talk to me about the electric atmosphere tonight. And also, I mean, what's a win like that against a Spurs team, mind you, mean for this Wolves team specifically, Jack?
Yeah. Sorry if I can't hear you as well tonight, because this place was absolutely on fire. My ears are still ringing. It was definitely loud inside Target Center here tonight. This crowd was unbelievable. I think, especially from kind of the middle of the third quarter, they kind of sensed that the Spurs offensively were slipping and the Wolves just needed a jolt of energy. And this crowd absolutely brought it in the entire second half. It's one of those nights where, for me personally, I'm just super grateful to be able to do what I do and be at all these games and sit where I do, because this was just an unbelievable basketball game. And I think you got to give, again, the Timberwolves a lot of credit. Couldn't have played worse yesterday defensively. Spurs got a really good win in Boston. So they came into this one 2.5 games ahead of the Wolves in the standings. So Minnesota knew that this was a huge game. And I mean, they absolutely delivered. The tank definitely was on empty, but they did have a rest advantage in this game. I mean, the Timberwolves played at 12 yesterday. The Spurs played at 6 yesterday.
Good note there, yeah.
And they had to fly from Boston to Minneapolis, which is a really tough back-to-back. But, I mean, just starting at the very end of this game, 6 lead changes in the final 3 minutes and 16 seconds. And I want to touch on Anthony Edwards right away off the top. I mean, we've talked about Ant settling like crazy these last few years, at least in the regular season, and it's kind of been a proven playoff riser, but that's never really translated to regular season late game performance. And now it just feels like every time he has the ball in his hands in the clutch that something good is going to happen. Anthony Edwards came into this game shooting 70% from the floor in clutch time situations, which is by far the best shooting percentage of anyone with at least 30 field goal attempts. Next highest is VJ Edgecombe at 59%, which is crazy for a rookie. But Ant goes 4 for 5 for 9 points in the final 5 minutes and 18 seconds, when the game was all within 5 points. Had 2 go-ahead baskets in the final 2 minutes, 19 seconds, made both of those attempts. So I just think the way that he's just totally ascended into this, I said it the other night, I'll continue to say, just like a comprehensive superstar, and that there's nothing that he can't do on the floor. Played amazing defense for most of this game on Stephon Castle, who was god-awful in this game in terms of his impact on the floor. He had 11 points, missed 9 shots, had 7 turnovers. I mean, Anthony Edwards gets a ton of credit there, so it was a two-way thing for him. And then again, with Wemby on a minutes restriction, about 26, 27 minutes, Fox, Castle, Harper, all 3 of those guys struggled offensively this entire game. You'd think the Wolves would have been in a really good spot to win this game pretty easily, but Wolves made it hard on themselves like they tend to. 14 of 25 from the free throw line, 56%. But again, you got to give the guys a ton of credit for the mental fortitude they displayed to overcome that. And the way that they, still D'd up and played really great defense on that guard trio. I mean, they shot 8 of 35 from the floor. That's 23%, had 10 assists, 10 turnovers, only scored 23 points. Was awesome. And then it was just a struggle early in this game for the Timberwolves, and the way that they just totally came back from a slow start again. It is a total mental win for the Timberwolves tonight in this game, for the way that, they kind of overcame a bunch of adversity. And I think a lot of that had to do with the way that Dante DiVincenzo and Nasri just kept playing, right? The Timberwolves stars didn't really have it in this game early. I mean, Nas didn't have it early in this game, started, I think, 0 of 5 from the floor. But the way that those two guys just found every single 50-50 ball, made every single huge shot, I think totally sent this crowd into a frenzy that was the kind of the spark that lit the fuse in every single other Timberwolves player that was on the floor. And so I think you got to give those guys a lot of credit. And I think too, they totally took advantage of the non-Wemby minutes. With Wemby on the floor, he played 27 minutes even. The Spurs were plus 17. They had a 138 offensive rating, 104 defensive rating. Both those would be best in the league. Plus 34 net rating. Minnesota shot 46% from two. And in the 21 minutes flat, Victor Wembanyama was off the floor. They were a minus 18, had a 70.8 offensive rating. So their offense was 68 points worse.
Wow.
100 possessions without Wemby out there. And Minnesota shot 60% from two. I mean, it was just a totally, completely different offensive approach and attack and results for the Timberwolves. And then did a great job, again, making it tough on those three guards when Wembanyama was off the floor.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
See, now you're on the hot seat, man, because between this and biggest X factor, I feel like you could just spin the wheel. You got 2, 3, 4 legitimate options. But who are you going to go with here for tonight's player of the game for the Wolves? Who was it and why?
Yeah, for me, tonight's player of the game is Donte DiVincenzo. I think it's his first player of the game nod this season. And I think a lot of why Donte gets the defensive player of the game tonight is that he just allowed the Wolves to keep treading water. He made some threes early in the second half when the Timberwolves' energy coming out was really bad out of the locker room. I thought that the game was over at that point, truthfully. They just looked like they were totally out of gas and weren't quite right mentally. But Donte, as well as Naz, just made some threes that kept them, instead of it being a 21-point game, it was a 14-point game. And I think those types of little plays matter. Had a steal off of an inbounds that resulted in a corner three. I mean, it just felt like every single time the Wolves needed a huge shot to drop, Donte DiVincenzo was the guy who got it done. I mean, he had 19 points, made 5 of his 12 threes. You'll take that every day of the week. He had 8 defensive rebounds, which was a lot. Go back and look at a lot of his defensive rebounds. I mean, he's high pointing the ball. He's getting clobbered on the way down, hits the deck and still just finds a way to get up and make things happen. And then too, when he's not rebounding, he does a great job of coming back to the ball, looking for the ball in transition and push pace in a really great way that set up a lot of awesome transition and semi-transition possessions for the Timberwolves. And in a lot of those moments, he had 7 assists tonight, and a lot of them came in those types of possessions. And then he also had 4 stocks. So he was really active defensively, didn't have a great time in the first half matching up against Champagny, but when he Champagny, really turned his water off in the second half. And then the reps that he had guarding De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, just really competed. And that's all you can ask for a guy. And I think, those types of, guys in your team that just play super hard every single night, there are going to be nights where that type of energy rubs off on the team when everyone else doesn't really have it and is enough to kind of keep a team in the game by yourself. And, we've seen Nickeil Alexander-Walker do that a ton for the Timberwolves in years past. And Donte DiVincenzo has kind of taken that mantle this season, and it's been really fun to see.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
They lose the first, second, and third quarter. They're down 17 a minute or two into the fourth, I want to say. And then it's like, okay, let the games begin. Things got so wild, so heated, so kind of ramped up, Jack. The Rudy Gobert sequence and foul and tech, we'll talk about that a little bit more with Victor Wembanyama. But walk me through it here. You were there. You were live. Was there, one moment, one sequence, I guess, that really ended up feeling like kind of the difference for the Wolves tonight?
Yeah, for me, it was when Naz Reid made his first 3 of the game at the 3:31 mark of the third quarter. And that, I think, everybody in Target Center kind of looked around at each other and said, this team can win this game, right? And I think when the fans kind of start to believe on that level and pump that much energy into the building, it just makes you fight even harder than you can. It allows you to go, let the gas tank run past E defensively and just dig a little deeper, find those extra ounces of energy to compete on that end of the floor. And so, there's Donte and Naz. Those are 2 guys that ignite the crowd in a way that pretty much the only guy who can do that is Anthony Edwards. And so I think when the crowd really got behind Naz, made that first 3, then made 2 more in the final couple minutes of that third quarter, again, it's kind of like that treading water, right? The Spurs wanted to push it to 20, and Naz just didn't let that happen. Kept it right around, in that 10 to 14 point range nearing the end of the fourth quarter. And then, those two guys and Bones Highland too played excellent basketball, especially in the offensive end of the floor in the early parts of that fourth quarter to just buy them enough time when Anthony Edwards was, was kind of biding his time, refueling for the fourth quarter push. So I thought, between those two guys, they were absolutely unbelievable. Again, I think I had it in here. Yeah, the two of those guys combined for 36 points, 8 made threes, 9 assists, 20 rebounds, and 7 stocks. And so I think when you have two bench guys that are willing to fight like that, it's only a matter of time before your stars are able to come through and make enough plays to get to the end. And that's certainly what happened.
The wild card round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boost lets you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. Visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
We get more into Jaylen Brown versus the officials. It's an ongoing battle. I haven't heard anything as far as in terms of a fine. League might just wait till Monday to do that. The thing that I think is new.
Really wait till maximum eyes are on the situation so that they can be like, we are fining you, Jaylen Brown.
Yeah. Jaylen, we heard you. Your request has been approved. You have been fined. So the one thing that Jaylen said in this whole thing was like, I really wish someone would pull the clips, which to me, I knew it would be like a call to the bloggers to pull the clips, because I used to be a blogger back in the day, and that's exactly what I would have done. Oh yeah. And a couple of people did, and like I forget who it was, but like a couple of people did. And I'm gonna find out just to give proper credit. I know Jack Simone did he put some stuff on Twitter, and then I think it's Adam Taylor.
Adam Taylor did one too. Yeah.
Yeah. Adam Taylor did one. That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah. Adam Taylor's one. So the conclusion is that Jaylen does have a point. And I don't think anybody's ever doubted that Jaylen has a point when it comes to the official. When he complains, it's generally because, like, look, he went to the line 0 times, and you can't honestly tell me that he was fouled 0 times on shots. So did the refs miss some calls? Absolutely, they missed some calls. And the conclusion that the Celtics take fewer free throws against good teams, which was Jaylen's like big kind of thing, like, okay, that's kind of interesting, Tom, but I don't know, man. You tell me. I feel like the Celtics, we already know, Derek White said it after the game, they don't take a lot of free throws. They're a jump shooting team. Jaylen attacks, and Jaylen occasionally gets like double-digit free throws. But Derek shoots floaters and jumpers, and when he gets to the rim, it's because he can get to the rim. Peyton Pritchard has developed the turnaround fadeaway. So when he looks like he's getting to the rim, and he turns around and he clears them. These guys don't attack. They're not SGA. They're not like guys who are going in, initiating contact. And they're certainly not floppers. Jaylen is right about that.
Yeah.
So they don't shoot a lot of free throws anyway. And you know what happens against the better teams? They have better defenders. They defend better. They're not like it. I don't know that it's a conspiracy that for some reason that, you don't shoot as many free throws against good teams. I don't understand why. But like, well, it's because they're good.
Yeah.
And they don't foul as much.
No, 100%. And I wanted to really get like, we have a lot of our basketball takes end up sounding somewhat similar because we agree on a lot of things. So I'm really curious, like, if you think I'm off base here, right? My honest take on this is, one, I think you're exactly right. I think if there is one Celtic who is likely to get a lot of free throws, it's Jaylen, right?
Mhm.
So on nights when Jaylen doesn't get fouled that much, the Celtics aren't going to shoot many free throws. So that's the one thing I will say on that. Number two, I think when you look at when you go back and look at some of the clips where Jaylen is really getting on the refs, right? There was one where he got a bucket and he thought that Stephon Castle fouled him, right? And he really gave it to that ref, like really just was like yelling at him. I think part of me thinks that he thought he was going to miss it and he was trying to draw the foul and then he made it and didn't draw the foul. And so he was all keyed up to like argue that he could have gotten the foul call. And so he really went at the ref. Because when I went back and watched that play, I didn't really see a lot of a foul. Like I watched a couple of them and it was like, I don't know. I didn't think it was that egregious. I didn't think it was that egregious. And then to me, the other point about that is then if you are complaining to the referees, like what is that going to do for you? Like, do you really think that's going to help? Because I see that and I think to myself, honestly, like officials are human too. And I think they generally do the best they can to like take that out of it, right? And to just kind of be, foul and travel and out of bounds calling robots, right? Like I think like they do their job as best they can. But like if you're complaining a lot and if you're really like getting on them a lot, I think you're less likely to get some of these calls in some of these games. Now, I know that there are times where a player will complain and then they'll get like 13 free throws in the next game. Like we just saw that like a game ago. So like it's not a hard and fast rule, but I guess I don't think that like complaining about the referees is a super productive way to go about this. And to me, it almost makes me wonder if like Jaylen is reaching a level of fatigue that is making him a little bit more antsy and aggravated at the refs. Like, I don't know. Like that is all as speculative as it possibly gets, obviously. But like, I guess that's several points that I think after watching last night's game. I don't know that I think that it's productive. And I also don't know that I think he was necessarily right. I thought the Spurs defended really hard and really well. And maybe they missed a couple of calls that could have gone either way. But yeah, I don't know. If the Spurs aren't foul Jaylen, not many other guys are going to necessarily get to the line either.
So I think there are a lot of different conversations here. I think the retort there, just to channel some of the Jaylen frustration, is that on the other end, they're not getting the same benefit of the doubt. And some of the calls that the Spurs are like, okay, this is not a foul here. On the other end, it is a foul.
Yeah.
And there might have been a couple of those. And it's hard to say, but like also good.
There was one Derek White one, especially that I thought was like really egregious, where he got what looked a whole lot like a clean block and got whistled for. I thought Derek had a pretty tough whistle defensively yesterday.
So that's a great point to make because, okay, Victor Wembanyama goes up to block Jaylen Brown and is mostly vertical, and Jaylen loses the ball and can sit there and be like, I was fouled. You say, maybe you were. And what ends up happening is some of it is the angle. You just didn't see an angle. From that angle, it looked like it was clean. It looked like ball first. And, importantly, not all contact is a foul.
Right.
There is contact that's allowed. And so you get Victor Wembanyama doing it. And okay, it may be hard to tell because he's almost 8 feet tall and he's jumping and you're like, yeah, he looks like he kind of blocked that. Then you go to the other end and you get Derek White, who's basically my size, like 6'5", and he makes a play, but he is extended and there's not as much body and all you see is arm. And you can say, okay, maybe he got the ball, maybe he didn't. You see a lot of arm. You see the follow through, all of that stuff. And so it looks more like a foul. And like, I'm not trying to defend all the officials here, but also, like, I would love to get Jaylen in an honest, off the record moment. I wish I was at the beginning of this road trip now, not the end of it, to be like, hey, you went back and looked at this stuff, right? Do you still honestly think that these were all fouls? Or were you just like, I'm not going to blow up your spot. I just want to know what you actually think, because I feel like half of the stuff that you're complaining about wasn't actually a foul. And what actually is the bigger complaint is we're not getting the calls on the other end. We're fouling more than they are. And it's a lot of similar plays. And if you're not, it's fine not to call it on one end, but call it the same way both ways. And also, I think what he wants is he said the inconsistency. He wants it, if it's a foul on Monday and it's a foul on Wednesday, there should be a foul on Friday and Saturday. But it's like baseball with an ump with two different, like one guy's calling the outside corner and another guy isn't. And you're like, I'm throwing the same pitch. Why can't you two see it the same way? I'm making the same play. I'm driving, I'm initiating, and then, guys are doing these things, X, Y, and Z. I got the whistle 2 games in a row. Now I'm not. Why am I not? Like, what's the deal there? I think that's his biggest complaint.
The wild card round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode every game day during the NFL playoffs. FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boost lets you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback, play, or coaching. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. Visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
The Oklahoma City Thunder gained some momentum in this win against Miami to make it 3 in a row.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast.
The Thunder getting a 3-game winning streak after this win over the Heat ahead of a massive week as Jay Will returns and the Big Three really play to their standard. In this game, the Thunder were as healthy as they've been all year, and they still are missing Isaiah Hartenstein. That's a massive deal. But considering how injury-plagued the start to the year has been for OKC, no iHeart, no Schwarber, no Topic, that's kind of the best that they've been to this point on the injury front. For the Heat, second night of a back-to-back, Hero was upgraded from questionable to available. Norman Powell, a late addition and out in this game. And the Thunder, I thought, really played to their standard for 48 minutes. For all that we've talked about over the last 3 weeks of defensive intensity, defensive effort, perhaps some complacency, and things not going their way on that end of the floor, and how that's bled over to heightening some of their woes offensively and made this last 3-week stretch appear as though the sky is falling, and it was in that 3-week stretch. I thought that tonight, even amidst the 14-5 run by Miami, it was more so just the ball not bouncing their way, and they had to stay the course. It was nothing overtly that they were doing wrong. You look at it, and in that stretch, you had Cason Wallace, who missed a fast break dunk, and even after getting bailed out with a call, splits the free throws. Chet Holmgren makes a great cut. J-Dub reads the floor on that cut perfectly, delivers a ball, and it leads to a turnover because Chet is not prepared for that basketball. The Thunder, speaking of their defense, rip away the ball at the rim with Cason Wallace in transition. That stops easy points. That gets OKC going the other way. They get a block at the rim and Holland loose ball. 0 for 2 the next time down. Like, they did not score off of either one of those situations. The defense was flying around, and they were playing with their hair on fire. And that's the first time you can describe this team that way in a long time over the course of a full game. And Miami, to their credit, started hot from 3, which really helped them after last night against Indiana, shooting 4 for 18 from distance. And then the second quarter happened, and I would give you like a 2-minute lull for OKC, where Miami, after having a pass just thrown into their lap to close the first quarter and take the lead after an easy dive to the rim, easy layup, Jay Will just tosses the ball to the Heat. They knock down a corner shot. They have a 2-point lead at the end of one. They start the second quarter after that happens by pressuring 94 feet and getting the tie up. They also got the stops and the long rebounds. They also pushed the pace and looked like a fresher team, pushing off of every OKC miss. This all happened in a 2-minute period, and it looked like the Heat were the team who had the off day Saturday, and the Thunder were the team who had the back-to-back for those 2 minutes. Early timeout by Mark, and OKC had it going the rest of the way, even after, you had some concern a little bit after that first 2 minutes of the second quarter. And another issue in that stretch here for OKC was simply the shot variance. Like, the Thunder had a great ball movement. All 5 guys on this play touching the ball. It swings perfectly to the perimeter. Wiggins does a great job relocating from the dunker spot to the corner to receive that 5th pass, wide open in the corner, shoots it, misses it. But OKC did a great job of relying on getting stops first, prioritizing the defensive end, and it helped them through the tough stretches that we talked about. Even in the second half, when the Heat wouldn't go away initially, OKC didn't panic after a strong Miami start to the third quarter. They quickly course corrected, and they got up by 2 at the 5:22 mark, and they went on a massive run. And so despite Miami finishing the first 2 quarters stronger than OKC, which the Thunder do need to clean up, and despite Miami being up by 5 at intermission, it was a 29-8 run by OKC in the third quarter that had them looking like their vintage selves. They were creating turnovers. They had the board control. They also had the long rebounds go their way. They got downhill whenever they wanted to. And most importantly, they knocked down their threes. They continued to generate quality looks. And look, I understand why it's so frustrating to see a team shoot the way Oklahoma City has shot for the better part of a month now and let that sky is falling feeling, which it did feel that way, compound upon itself because of the shots. But to Mark's point post-game where he talked about they were actually generating some high-quality looks, the problem was the shooters were not knocking it down. What's the alternative? To shoot worse shots? The Thunder kept generating those high-quality looks, and in the second half got rewarded for it by, in the second half, shooting 42% from three-point land. That's the key. This was a game where a lot got turned around for OKC. The defensive effort, I think, got turned around. The defensive intensity and the intentionality got turned around. J-Dub talked about that post-game of, like, they realized that they need to get back to the basics almost defensively. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. They need to get back to the basics and not just be so hell-bent on getting turnovers. And it resulted in them getting turnovers through the flow of the game, but they weren't just outright gambling for steals. In the passing lanes, they weren't just olaying, swiping at drivers and letting them go past them inside. They really did a good job of playing with their feet, not their hands, and then letting the game flow, which happened to flow to 23 Heat turnovers. And that switch defensively helped them do everything in this game. The threes helped. The threes were nice, but it does go back to what Mark said. At times, you ask what's the alternative to take bad shots. Honestly, at times, this team had taken some bad shots. You had seen this team start to press and say, you know what, the threes aren't falling. If I'm Shea, if I'm Jada, if I'm Chet, I'm going to shoot over this triple team. And they did not do that tonight, even when the game got muddy a little bit. And so it led to OKC swelling this double-digit lead. OKC got up 93-85 at the end of the third quarter, and that was the biggest test of them all for the Thunder in this game. We talked about Friday, how perhaps J-Dub's fourth quarter could build some momentum for him as a guy who has struggled in his return, and it's a predictable struggle. It's an explainable struggle because of the wrist injury and trying to recover with his wrist after the surgeries. But you wondered if that game against Memphis could turn the tide for him. Start of the fourth quarter, Shea's on the bench. In the first 2 minutes, the Thunder go on an 8-2 run. It was guys like Isaiah Joe getting their own miss, heading to the corner, knocking down a deep mid-range shot. It was OKC getting 2 backcourt turnovers out of that Heat timeout at the 10:02 mark in the fourth quarter and making them pay for it. The Thunder did a good job of controlling this game in the second half. They played their style of basketball for 48 minutes, and when they had that typical Thunder run in that third quarter of 29-8, they never relinquished control of this game. A 6-0 run here from Miami, a three that Miami hit, leading to 2 different stops by Miami, it never let them chip into the lead because you could stop those runs so early and you could get stops on the other end. And you felt like you were in full control, especially after the Thunder got up by 20 points in this one.